Welcome to the Financial Armor Show. My name is Brad Cooper, president of Cooper Financial Investments, and I want to welcome my amazing co-host Tony Shore. How you doing today, Tony?
I am doing great, Brad. Thank you for
Great.
having me on the show and the
Yes.
wonderful introduction. I've had a great week. How about you?
Oh, it's been great, Tony. We were just talking before the show, just how fast summer's going, what's been going on. I'm just very excited, very blessed. Yesterday, I celebrated 35 years with my wife, high school sweetheart from, I had to go back and calculate this, 42 years ago, we met each other.
Wow. That's
And
amazing, Brad.
and I was
You and
what,
Shelly
two
have
and a
been
half, 3
together.
years old, maybe at the time.
Right. You and Shelly have been together that long, huh? 35 years of marriage, and you've known her 42
She
years?
was 15, Tony, when we met. I was 16,
Really?
and it's just amazing. So we celebrated 35 years of marriage yesterday, and just in the last year, we went from 0 to 3 grandchildren, which I am
That's right.
so thankful for. And Tony, I know you're not there yet. You will be, but I do know why God gives children to young people
Yes.
versus old people like myself. Energy.
Yeah. So have you had some experience already with your three grandkids?
Absolutely. My wife helps out. She's just such a great Gigi's her name.
Oh, the kids call her
With the
Gigi.
kids,
Yeah.
but she helps out several days a week. She's just great, and we have the kids over often. They spend the night, and when babies are spending the night, they still want to get up every 3 or 4 hours for bottles, diaper changings, playing at 2 o'clock in the morning. So even though my wife takes care of that, Tony, I'm still wide awake too.
Sure.
Feeling guilty, laying in
Yeah.
bed, not
Right.
helping out as much as I should. But
But
it's
I know
been
you're
great.
good with the kids too. You spend a lot of time with them, and that's
Yes.
good. But it wears you out to try to keep up with them, doesn't it?
It does. But it just makes me, and we've had many conversations in the past. It's just a reflection of life. What's important in life? We talk money, on every show, and we have been very privileged and honored to help thousands of clients the last, 30 years. But at the end of the day, when you're, holding your grandson, your granddaughter, they
Yeah.
just like make you realize what's important in life. It's
Right.
not how much money you make or how successful you are. It's just the love, and like I always share with everyone, it's God and family and friends.
Yeah.
That's
Those are the
our
most important things, and
yes,
that is really what matters. And to tie into today's topic,
yes,
it also once you have grandkids, that's one more reason that you want to have a successful retirement, though, right?
that's
You want to be healthy in retirement, you want to be happy, and so you want to make sure you don't make costly mistakes leading up to retirement. And there are things you need to do before you're ready to retire, aren't there?
there is, Tony. And then as I was preparing for the show, I was thinking about you and I quite a bit because we're similar ages.
Yeah,
And as you're getting older, which we all are, approaching retirement years, what's the most important thing? Of course, it's not money, but you have to have money and making sure
right.
you do the right things, because money and doing the right things with your retirement accounts will allow you to have more peace and
Mhm.
time to spend,
Yep.
with your loved ones. And what we're going to talk about today, which very important because that relates to you and I and probably the majority of our listeners, is important moves to make before you retire.
Yeah.
And I just had that discussion this morning with a, just now, person that just became a client who's a little bit older, how important that is.
Oh, it's hugely important, obviously. And yeah, you're helping people. You're doing this every day. And most of us go through this planning process, as we age, but you go through it with people every day and see the different pitfalls and
Right.
mistakes, and that's how you're able to help people, right?
Absolutely. And, as you look at retirement and you're preparing, for, retiring, whether it's a year from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now, one of the biggest things is probably the top on the list. And I took some of this information we're talking about on today's show from Kiplinger article. These are the most critical moves to make in the next 5 to 10 years before you hang your hat
Yep.
in retirement. And the first one is, and I can't overemphasize this because this is the conversation I'm having with everyone. You really got to reevaluate your portfolio. You
Ah,
know,
yeah.
we have been so spoiled, thank God, for the market the last 10, 15 years.
Haven't we? I mean, especially the last, what, 4, 3 or 4 have
Yes.
been, record highs, yeah.
And the gains have been great,
Yeah,
but that's not the norm. I
right.
just had a meeting a few weeks ago, and a client of mine, we were just talking. He said, "Well, Brad, I just look back the last 3 or 4 years and the market's been up over 20%." I
Yeah.
said, "This is true, but if you go back to 2022, the market was down over 20%."
Yeah, and it was down for the year, yeah. So you
Yes,
had a year of down market, and then in the years following, it's been up and going back up, but it happens, and we'll have another 2022, won't we?
that's right.
Yeah,
So don't get greedy. Don't get used to making 15, 20% every single year. I went back, which I've done many times, the last 20, 30, 40, even 50 years and said, and researched what has been the average return in the market with your average typical portfolio over that life, time. And a lot of portfolios have done 8, 9% on average, which that's more the norm. It's not 20 or 30% a year for 50 years.
huh. Yeah,
And
no, obviously it isn't. Yeah, so you do have to reevaluate, where you're weighted and be really diversified. It can't all be at risk is what you're saying, right?
yes, and just one story I'll share with you. I had a meeting here within the past year, and we went back several years with our client's portfolio. And of course, they had a negative, 20% return plus from 2022. They had
Yeah.
several positive years. And what people don't realize is if you take a negative 20 and add it to a positive 20 and another positive 20, do the math.
Yeah.
Your average return is not 20%. You take a negative 20 plus a positive 20, that cancels it out.
Right.
And then take the other 20%, your average return before fees is maybe 5 to 6% on
Yep.
average. So I share that because one thing that we recommend is reevaluating your portfolio, which we'll do. We'll re-identify your personal risk score. We have a color, a money risk analysis that we give to everyone who comes through our door, and we'll find out your risk, how much risk you want to take, and reposition your current portfolio to make sure that as you approach retirement, if we experience a market downturn of 20, 30, 40%, you're not going to lose that much of your portfolio, which could delay your retirement goals.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and you don't want that. I mean, you don't wanna make a critical mistake there, which is why you need to make sure you're looking at these strategies. I mean, obviously, what you're saying is strong market gains can create hidden risks sometimes, right?
That's right. And it's okay to take risk with the money that you can take risk with
Right.
and protect what we need to protect based on your risk tolerance and maybe your income needs. But then once we protect that from market loss, and that will take care of your future needs, the remaining part of your balance of your portfolio, we can take some risk with. So then
Yeah.
if the market does take a 20% dip, you're not going to lose 20% overall in your portfolio.
Right. Right, because it's not all at high risk. Some of it is maybe in other areas, right? And it's a well-balanced portfolio, and maybe it's not all even in the market by that point in time, depending
That's
on
right.
how close you are to retirement or where you're at.
You brought up a point I just thought of. I've had this conversation over and over about the market. I would say, Tony, 99% of the people that come in my office that I talk to, and we start the process with Cooper Financial, and we evaluate their portfolio, all their money's in the stock market. They don't know about other strategies that are great as far as protection and growth and income needs. And our industry, shame on us as a whole, does a very poor job as far as educating and providing recommendations of other strategies, especially a lot that are guaranteed against market loss, but have great history of market returns, upside potential. And then another topic, a lot of these strategies also provide legacy opportunities, which
Ah,
can maximize your legacy by 2 or 3 times tax free. But it seems
wow.
like 9 out of 10 times, probably more than that, Tony, that I'm evaluating a portfolio for a person's, overall retirement. All their money's in equities, stocks,
Yeah.
bonds, ETFs.
100%. It's almost always in 401ks,
Yes.
403bs, TSPs, or IRAs, right?
That's right. So that's something that is disturbing, and I learned this many years ago. A lot of times, when we're sitting down with a person, their definition of risk does not align up with the company or their advisor's line of risk,
Yeah.
because you know that's an area you got to take a look at. Another area which is so important, and I'm glad in Kiblincher they brought this up, is when you're 5 to 10 years out, and once you get to retirement, there's a difference between focusing on accumulation versus distribution phase. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah. So you mean you're saving. So in our working years, we're taking our
Yes.
income and creating savings, but that's going to flip on its head. And we have to start preparing for when we're taking our savings and creating income. Is that right?
That's right. And, I use this example quite a bit. Most people have heard of dollar cost averaging. You know, in your working years, you just keep investing, markets up, markets down. Actually, when the market's down, Tony, is you buy more shares
Yeah.
and market will go back up. You accumulate wealth, accumulation phase, right? But then once you get to retirement, let's say you need to start pulling money out of your retirement, which most Americans do from
Yeah.
their IRAs, from their 401k. One downturn in the market could cause a disaster with your retirement plan and cause you to run out of money in 9 to 12 years on average.
Yeah, if you're pulling out during a year where like
Yes.
2022 or let's say even worse 2008 when the
Yes.
market's down 20 to 50% and you've got to pull all that money out to live on for a year, that's pretty rough. You need to have a balance, but the time to plan for that isn't like right before you retire or when you retire. It's that 5 to 10 year period to have a plan in place. Okay, at this point we're going to shift this money here and
Right.
rebalance a little bit, right?
You know, yes. And one of the great reports, which I love, one of our favorite reports is our Compass report. It's an
Yeah.
income report. So, what we'll do is put your current income, we'll put your future Social Security benefits that will come in. We'll put, if you have a pension, which we're finding most people today in the workforce do not have a pension,
Right.
and we'll kind of find out where you will be when you want to retire and how much money you want coming in on a monthly basis,
Mm.
and set it up early. Therefore, with the allocations of taking a little bit of risk versus not, and making sure that you're prepared, we want to make sure you don't run out of money before you die.
Yeah. That's key right there. And that's the number one fear people have, right? When they come to you, they're afraid of, do I have enough? Will I run out before I pass? I need to have enough money to live on. You don't want that bank account to hit zero before your blood pressure does, right?
You know, that's true. And another factor, which I don't want to sound like a broken record, Tony, but we talked about this in previous shows, is part of income planning. When you do retire, and market volatility, which is a big risk, which can, kind of destroy your retirement plan. But another risk, which we talked about in past shows, is taxes. So
Oh,
that's another factor you got to
huge.
look at.
Yep.
What type of money do you have? Most people have the majority of their money in 401ks and IRAs, all pre-taxed accounts. When you get into retirement and start pulling that money out, you have to pay taxes.
Yeah, traditional regular 401ks and a traditional IRA, which is what most people have, one of those two, or a similar account where it's tax deferred. You don't pay taxes on that money when it goes in. They take it out of your check, so you get a break that year, but it grows to a bigger amount, and it's all of it. The money you put in and the growth is taxable when you take it out in retirement, isn't it?
Yes, and it's one of the very few accounts, Tony, that you have a partner, not your spouse,
No.
Uncle Sam, the
Yeah, it's a joint
IRS.
account. It's a joint account with the IRS, isn't it?
That's right. And the
Yeah.
IRS makes the rules
Yeah, so they
on how
set the
much
amount they can take out, and so that could change and probably for the worse. So no matter what federal tax bracket you're in, you're gonna pay that's fully taxable income, isn't it?
absolutely. And then worst is once you pass away, because of the Secure Act that passed, in January of 2020 and January 1st of 2023, the CARES
Yep,
Act 2.0, now your beneficiaries have to liquidate that IRA in 10 years or less, or they'll
within
sustain
10
a
years, yeah,
penalty.
and pay
So,
taxes on it.
and pay taxes. So, we're all about, identifying all the risks that are associated with financial planning. That's why we do what I call holistic financial planning. There's
Yeah,
so many risks out there. The ones we're talking about today: market
yeah.
risk, income risk, and the
Yeah, well,
list goes on.
the taxes, let me ask you about that, Brad.
Yes.
So what's the solution to that? Like, it's fully taxable, or when your loved ones inherit it, like your kids or your grandkids, it's fully they have to take it out and pay full taxes on it. How do you I know you utilize strategies and different tools to alleviate that problem, right? And you start that planning before they retire, right?
Yes, if all possible before you retire. But even if you are in retirement, we just met last week with a couple in their early 70s. So
Mhm.
it's not too late. Why? Right now in the United States, federal income taxes are at an all-time low,
Yeah,
and
they're
they'll
still low.
probably stay low for another 5 or 6 years. But most of our tax experts, Tony, and I feel this way, I know you do as well, taxes are going to go up. They have
Yeah.
to. We're going to be approaching a $50 trillion deficit by the year 2030. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all those programs are almost bankrupt.
Yeah.
Congress is not going to allow that to happen. So there's two solutions. Number one, the government can spend less money. Ha ha ha, right? Or
Right.
two, raise taxes.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest, things that we're doing for our clients with the help of our CPAs and our strategic partners is strategically over the next several years being very careful. We talk to a lot of do-it-yourself investors, and which I respect them, but in ways I don't. It'd be like them trying to do heart surgery on themselves just because
Right.
they have studied the internet, AI told them what to do. There's so many variables that go into planning, and that's what we do the
Yeah.
best with the help of our tax experts. And we show people how to go from taxable accounts to tax-free.
Yeah.
Either you're going to pay taxes now or you're really going to pay them in the future. I'd
Yeah.
rather pay them now while they're on sale.
Right. And so there are strategies to do that, things like Roth
Yes.
IRAs, cash value life insurance. There are things you can put in a tax-free bucket to spread it out. So you have some money that's still taxable, but yet you're building up a tax-free account or strategies. So you're paying taxes spread out over time or before you
Right.
retire. That way you're not going to get hit with, as Ed Slott says, a ticking tax time bomb. That's an Ed Slott quote,
You're
right?
right.
Your friend Ed Slott, you've had him on the show.
Yes.
You've had him down there to speak to your clients. He's fantastic. He
He
kind of
did.
wrote the book on this tax situation, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to what you mentioned. I normally don't talk about specific products at
Right.
all.
Right.
And you mentioned a product that Ed Slott talks a lot about, we talk a lot about, that has a negative, name to it. It's life insurance.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, why would I want life insurance? At
Right.
my age, it's too expensive. At my
Right.
age, my kids are doing better than I am. Well, there's many ways to leverage life insurance. And this is what the wealthy have been doing
Yeah,
for
this isn't
years.
your father's life insurance
No,
or your grandfather's. It's their hybrid policies that
it
have been
is.
they're so much more beneficial to the consumer. It's gotten so much more competitive that insurance companies have really improved these things, a lot of the key companies. But it depends on your situation, right? You
It
never
does.
recommend cookie cutter like everybody you work with has
Oh,
to get life insurance. That's not the way you operate, is it?
not at all.
Yeah.
Just last week, I sat down with a couple doing a review, clients of ours,
Yep.
and their goals changed from 8 years ago.
Sure.
They've done a good job in retirement. Their income is plenty, and most of their money's in the market, fixed index annuities. Their risk level is protected. But they came to me and said, Brad, we want to maximize legacy. We want to
Mm,
give more. How can we
yeah.
do that for our children, our grandchildren? And that's another area that we're showing a lot of families on how to reposition some of your current assets in your portfolio and maximize your legacy and turn that into a tax-free legacy and maybe double your net worth with no new money. That's
Yeah.
the fun part, Tony. And that's the planning we do at Cooper Financial and the education. And we're good at what we do, Tony. But what makes us great is our strategic partners like Ed Slott, like our CPAs, like our attorneys, and other specialists that
Yeah.
walk through the process with us.
Yeah, and the fact that you work alongside CPAs, attorneys, and even have direct lines to some great minds who are so up on the current tax code, like Ed Slott, to talk to, I think it's just you can't put a value on that, and that's
No.
why, like you talked about, do-it-yourselfers or independent investors. That's why study after study shows
Mhm.
they like it's a high percentage, 90 to 95% at least, end up underperforming the market. They underperform working with a financial advisor. Even after any fees, you're still not going to make as much money because it's too hard to remove the human element, the emotion, and you don't have you're not surrounded by the specialists and the advisors and people who specialize. It's like you said, it's about like trying to do brain surgery or operate on yourself. Nobody's going to do that, and you shouldn't do that. So yeah.
That's right. And what I see more common with individuals like that, do-it-yourselfers, they don't want to pay the fees. Yeah,
Right.
they may do a good job,
Some of
but
them.
they're just, they're setting themselves up for failure. And if they're married, here's what I have found, Tony, in many cases, well, the majority of cases is their spouse
Yeah.
is complete opposite. They don't know anything. They don't want to know anything. They don't have any interest.
So you're going to leave
Then
them in a bad situation
exactly.
if you should pass first. And that is a huge part of why you need to find a trusted financial professional who's a fiduciary and going to look out for your best interests and who can meet with you and your spouse and your whole family. I mean, you've had people bring their kids in and talk to them about where
Yes.
everything's at. That way, if something should happen, you're there. You're a phone call away and they can get you on the phone and the situation. And life happens, so you need to be
Yes, it
prepared for
does.
it, which is what we've been talking about today, Brad.
Life.
And there are so many different things. I mean, we didn't even get on. We've talked a lot before. Social Security is another
Right.
thing you have to do before you retire. You have to have a strategy. Don't just go and file at 62 because it's what your buddy at work told you to do, or your neighbor, or your uncle, or your brother-in-law. Right? You have that report run, a maximization report, and talk to somebody
Right.
who's going to look at your big picture and see, okay, here's what fits your situation best. And there are so many different times and different reasons to file at different times. It's not just 62 or 67 or 70. There are times in between, and for everybody, it's a little different.
It is. And, as we come to a closing, Tony, I would strongly recommend anyone out there listening who maybe has done a great job, maybe approaching retirement, maybe in retirement, get a second opinion, get
Yeah.
a third opinion. And, what I love about being a fiduciary, Tony, is if a person comes in and they have everything in place and they've done a great job, especially with their previous company, as fiduciaries, we'll tell them that.
Yeah.
But if not, we'll tell you why.
Yeah.
And, but it's important in this world we live in today where things are changing so much.
Yeah.
You just can't, put it to the side and ignore it for the next 10 years,
Right.
or it could be devastating just for the fact that laws change on a regular basis
Yeah.
and keeping up with that in general. So, but wow, time flies. You're right,
It
Tony.
does. It
We did
does.
not get through, a big part of this, but
No. But I think the message is there and the education is there. You need a plan. You need to start planning. The sooner the better, and start planning for that transition from, like you said, the accumulation to the distribution phase. And that's a
right.
big trick that people
Yes.
don't have an experience with. So how can our listeners and viewers, Brad, get a hold of you and the team there at Cooper
Yes.
to set up a no charge, no obligation consultation to get that second or third opinion?
Absolutely, Tony. And that's what we love. Come in and we'll just answer questions, provide information and education to you over a cup of coffee, or now, since it's 180 degrees here in Arizona, iced tea, ice water.
Yeah, iced tea
But
and iced water. It
you
sounds
can
good.
call our office. We have a toll-free number, 888-390-5277. Again, that's 888-390-5277. Or you can visit our website, financialarmorshow.com. Again, that's financialarmorshow.com. And email us any question you have, or if you just want to come in and sit down and just pick our brain. That's the joy that I have, the passion that keeps me going every single day. Tony, I'm going to be 59 this year. I could easily retire. I'm very blessed.
You don't
I'm
look a
never,
day over 40, Brad.
thank you, but I'm never going to retire. Why? Because it's not work.
Yeah.
It's sitting down and meeting some of the greatest people, greatest clients now that are friends, and
Yeah, they
just
become like
pouring into them.
family, you and
They
your
are.
clients. Yeah, it's great.
They are.
Yeah.
So
I think that's fantastic. Well, Brad, thank you so much. Listeners and viewers, again, it's financialarmorshow.com. And that does it for today's episode of the Financial Armor Show with our amazing host, Brad Cooper. And I'm your co-host, Tony Shore.
thank you, Tony.